بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أحسن الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Inshallah, in this series of lessons, we're going to go through an explanation of an-Nawawi's 40 Hadith, the well-known and famous al-Arba'een an-Nawawiyya, the 40 Hadith compiled by an-Nawawi. And this explanation is taken from the noble Shaykh Saalih ash-Shaikh, and he has an explanation which is not it's not like a detailed and exhaustive explanation of the 40 Hadith. It's more it's a type of explanation where it highlights the principles and the which are found in these ahadith. So he highlights the various principles, the usul and the qawaid, the foundations and the principles which he highlights and extracts from these ahadith. And this explanation initially was a series of recorded lessons, and I have here with me the printed version, the book. And in the introduction, the author, the Shaykh Saalih ash-Shaikh, he mentions a few points. From them is the issue, the general issue of seeking knowledge, and how a student of knowledge, that basically the way that he should seek knowledge is to do it in stages, and in progressive stages, in small steps, and this is better in terms of a person being able to retain the knowledge, because as the Imam Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri and Shaykh Saalih ash-Shaikh quotes from him, he said that whoever acquires knowledge in a single go, man rama al-ilma jumlatan dhahaba anhu jumlatan, that whoever acquired knowledge in a single go, he will lose it in a single go. Wa innama yutlabu al-ilm ala marri al-ayyam wal-layali, that indeed knowledge is sought over the passing of days and nights. So the Shaykh says that a student of knowledge, who should begin with the small books, the short and the small books which mention the usul, the foundations, and he acquires this knowledge in like small stages. And when he proceeds in this manner, then he will be able to, like, just for example, like he does with reading and with speaking, he begins first of all with the basic sounds, or with the basic the writing, and then over time, as he improves steadily and in stages, he then becomes very precise in his speech and in being able to write. So knowledge is exactly the same. It's just like a person learning to speak and a person learning to write. It's exactly the same. That from knowledge are those which are the small aspects of knowledge, and from knowledge are those which are the great and the serious elements of knowledge, which require a great deal of understanding. And so the Shaykh says that the reason why this is the case, because this knowledge itself is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in that sense, there is nothing from this knowledge which is really which we consider to be light and easy, in the sense that it's light and something insignificant. And the Shaykh mentions a narration, a quotation from Imam Malik rahimahullah, when it was said to him that some issue was mentioned, and it was said to him, هذا من العلم السهل, that this knowledge, this is from the easy knowledge, or the light knowledge. And so Imam Malik replied, there is nothing in the knowledge of the Quran or the Sunnah which is easy or which is light. Rather it is, as Allah the Mighty Majestic said, Inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila. Indeed, we shall send upon you, qawlan thaqila, a very weighty word or a heavy word. So the Shaykh says that knowledge, the Shaykh says that the person, the Shaykh then makes a point from this quotation. He says that the knowledge, when a person has this view of knowledge, that it's something that is weighty and heavy and perhaps has an element of difficulty towards it, then he will indeed acquire this knowledge, right? If he gives this, if he has this perception of knowledge. And as for the person who treats issues as if they're like very light and very easy, so he says, for example, this is easy and this is understood and this is imaginable and this is understood and whatever, and then in this manner, he passes through it like as if it's very quickly and very hastily. Then this person, he will lose a great deal. A great deal will pass by him and he won't even acquire it. So the Shaykh then says that basically, emphasizing again that when we seek knowledge, then it's important that we seek it in stages and in gradual stages, and we have a very clear methodology that we follow when we seek knowledge, and that we don't treat it as if knowledge is something very light and easy, and when we treat knowledge as if it's serious, something that's weighty, something that's heavy, something in which difficulty is involved, then this is better in terms of being able to understand it and being able to remain firm upon it and being able to continue, as a student of knowledge. And the Shaykh says that knowledge, if it's not attended to and a person doesn't keep attending to it, then it will be lost. It will eventually be lost. And so then the Shaykh, after this, he says, speaking now specifically about this book, he introduces this book and he says that this particular book, the book that he's going to, whose explanation he's going to begin, he says that the author of this book is the Imam, the Allama Yahya bin Sharaf an-Nawawee, and it has also been said that he's an-Nawawee, an-Nawawi or an-Nawawee. There's two ways for the mentioning of that name, and he says that he's from the Shafi'i scholars. He's from the well-known and the prominent scholars amongst the Shafi'iyya, and he wrote many explanations of books on hadith and books on fiqh, and likewise in the language of the jurists and other than that. And the reason why this book came about was that another scholar by the name of Ibn Salah rahimahullah, and he was another well-known famous scholar and a muhaddith. What he did was he sat together he used to have gatherings in which he used to sit together in order to teach hadith, and what he did was he compiled a collection of hadith together in which the principles of the Sharia or the knowledge of the Sharia is summarized, right? A hadith which around which the whole of the Sharia and the usul of the Sharia are based. So the hadith that he put together was 16 in number. 26 in number. He brought together 26 hadith, which he considered to be, summarizing or containing the broad principles of the Sharia as a whole. And then the Imam an-Nawawi rahimahullah, he came and he added another 16 on top, right? Because he felt there was another 16 that need to be added. So altogether this made 42 hadith, and these are what we have today in the book Al-Arba'in an-Nawawiyya. There are in fact 42 hadith. And then after Imam an-Nawawi, there came the Imam Abdul Rahman bin Ahmad ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, and what he did was he added a further 8. he added a further 8, which again were a hadith which contained fundamental broad principles of the religion, around which the whole of the Sharia revolves, and so therefore it became 50 hadith. And the 50 hadith are found in the book of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, called Jami'ul Ulum wal Hikam fi Sharh 50 hadithan min Jawami' al-Kalam. And this is again another well-known book, and it's actually quite a detailed and exhaustive explanation of an-Nawawi's 40 hadith. And the Shaykh says that the reason why these hadith are considered to be so important is because from them, when we look at them, we find that some of them, there's no issue of the issues of the religion except that you will find it in these hadith, whether it will be discussing the subject of aqidah, creed, or jurisprudence, fiqh, or the issues of halal and haram and so on and so forth. Then you will find them, broadly speaking, to be mentioned in these hadith. So the Shaykh says, finally, just summarizing, that to be concerned with these hadith is very important, because to understand them is understanding the foundations of the religion in general and the principles of the religion in general, and because some of them also relate to the rulings, right? So some of them relate to the affairs of aqidah and the affairs of fiqh and other than that, and some of them relate to the actual rulings in the religion as well. So with that introduction, we'll commence the first hadith. And the first hadith, as you are all aware, is the well-known famous hadith, the hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, which is a hadith of intention. Indeed, actions are but by intention. So the text of the hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen, and Amir al-Mu'mineen Abi Hafsin Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, who said, قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, that he heard the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم say, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. Indeed, actions are but by intention, and indeed every man shall have that which he intended. فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته لدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. And so therefore, whoever's emigration to Allah was to Allah and His Messenger, then his emigration is indeed to Allah and His Messenger. And whoever's emigration was for the purpose of the world, to acquire a portion of it, or for a woman that he wanted in marriage, that he wanted to marry, then his emigration is for that for which he emigrated. And this hadith is narrated by Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim in their two books of hadith, the two sahihs. And the Shaykh Saalih al-Shaikh begins by saying that this hadith is the first hadith, the hadith of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, that he heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. And this hadith is a great and mighty hadith, to such a degree that a group from the Salaf, and likewise a group from the scholars of the religion thereafter, they said that this hadith, it's desirable that this hadith is placed, is at the beginning of every single book from the books of knowledge. Right? It's desirable for this hadith to be placed at the beginning of every single book from the books of knowledge. And this is why Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he began his collection, his compilation with this particular hadith. And so he made this hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى, to be the very first hadith. And as for the hadith, then, this hadith is an asl, is a foundation from the foundations of the religion. And Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, Imam Ahmad stated that there are 3 ahadith around which the whole of Islam revolves. There are 3 ahadith around which Islam revolves. The hadith of Umar, which is this hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, indeed actions are but by intention. The hadith of Aisha, radiyallahu anha, مَنْ أَحْدَثَ فِي أَمْرِنَا هَذَا مَا لَيْسَ مِنْهُ فَهُوَ رَدٌّ, that whoever introduced something into this affair of ours, something which doesn't belong to it, then it is rejected. And the hadith of an-Nu'man bin Bushair, which is al-halal bayyin wal-haram bayyin, that the halal is clear and manifest, and the haram is clear and manifest, and between them both are affairs which are ambiguous. That hadith. So this is a statement of Imam Ahmad, where he said that these 3 hadith, the whole of Islam revolves around them. And the Shaykh says that this statement from this Imam, from Imam Ahmad, the Imam of Ahlul Sunnah, is, it's extremely, deep and profound, in the sense that, and then the Shaykh goes on to explain why, or he goes on to give an explanation of the statement of Imam Ahmad. He says this is because that a person, his actions, the action of a person who is tasked and responsible for acting upon the Sharia, that his actions revolve around either doing that which he's been commanded or keeping away from that which he's been prohibited. Right? So a person, his actions are always, it's either doing something which he's been commanded or keeping away from something which he has been prohibited. And either of these things, this is actually synonymous with the halal and the haram. The halal and the haram. Right? So in other words, all of the actions of a servant, they revolve around the halal and the haram. And then, between the halal and between the haram, there are obviously some ambiguous affairs and ambiguous issues, and this is the 3rd category. So we have the halal, we have the haram, we have in the middle ambiguous affairs, and that's why in this hadith mentions all 3. The hadith of an-Nu'man bin Bushair, because in the hadith there occurs al-halal bayyin wal-haram bayyin wa baynahuma umurun mushtabihatun, that the halal is manifest, the haram is manifest and clear, and between them both are affairs which are ambiguous. And so therefore we can see that this hadith has comprised, or it contains all of the actions, right? It's got the halal and the haram and the even the affairs which are ambiguous, right? So that therefore covers all of the actions that a person can perform. Next, these actions that we perform outwardly, right? Those things which are obligatory, those things that we've been commanded, so therefore we perform them, and those things that we've been prohibited from, so therefore we keep away from them. Then whether these actions are correct or not, right? The correctness of these actions, which this hadith of an-Nu'man bin Bushair has mentioned, these actions, the correctness of these actions depends upon the existence of the niyyah, the existence of the intention. Right? So the existence of the intention, or the intention itself and the nature of that intention, will either make these outward actions, it will either make them acceptable and righteous, right? Or it will make them unacceptable and not righteous. Unacceptable. Right? So the existence of this niyyah is such that it will make actions correct and accepted, or other than that. Right? So the Shaykh says, on top of this, so we have the actions themselves, we have the niyyah, and then on top of this, these actions that we've been asked to perform, which Allah has made obligatory, from the wajibat, from the obligatory affairs, or the mustahabbat, the recommended affairs, then there has to be some sort of scales of balance. There has to be some sort of outward balance by which we can judge an action to be correct. right? The outward action when it's performed. There has to be a balance, or there has to be a scale. Otherwise, any action could be considered to be righteous and worship. And this is why the third hadith, the hadith of Aisha, Man amila amalan laysa alayhi amruna fahuwa rad, that whoever did an action which is not in agreement with our affair, then it is rejected. This is a hadith reported by Muslim, similar in wording to the hadith that was mentioned earlier on. And this hadith outlines or explains that there's a criterion for acceptance of these actions, and which is whatever is in accordance with the Sunnah. So these three hadith, when you bring them all together, the outward actions, the halal and the haram, and what a Muslim performs, then the validity of those actions based upon the niyyah itself, right, the correctness of the intention, and then the manner in which these actions are performed, are they in accordance with the Sunnah or not, right? This is why you can see that this essentially covers the whole of Islam, in the sense that it deals with ikhlas, sincerity to Allah in actions. It deals with all of the actions themselves, meaning everything that comes into Iman, all of the actions, and it deals with the following of the Sunnah, making ittiba of the Sharia as opposed to what is besides it. So worshipping Allah based upon what He Himself legislated, as opposed to worshipping Him based upon that which He didn't legislate. So this is why the statement of Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, is very profound, in the sense that he stated that these three hadith, the whole of Islam revolves around them. So then the Shaykh continues and he says that this hadith, the hadith of actions, the innamal a'malu bin niyat, the hadith, indeed actions are by intention. That a Muslim, that a person, he is in need of it in every single thing. Right? So whether it is, he's in need of it, for example, in acting upon the things which he's been commanded with, and in keeping away from the prohibitions, and in keeping away from the mushtabihat, the ambiguous matters. And this is why this hadith is very important, because no matter what situation a person might be in any of the affairs, like for example, he might be facing an obligation, he might be facing or doing something which is mustahab, he might be facing something which is prohibited, which is haram, right? So he keeps away from it, or it might be disliked in the Sharia, right? Or the affair could be something that's like ambiguous or not clear, so he abandons it. No matter what situation of all of these situations a man is in, or a person is in, right? He's faced with all of these different types of situations, then he cannot be considered to be righteous in any of those situations, meaning in relation to a wajib or a mustahab, or keeping away from something which is haram, or from which is makruh, or something which is ambiguous, so he keeps away from it. In all of these scenarios, then he will never be considered to be righteous unless he has this desire of seeking the face of Allah, the Mighty and Majestic, by way of that action. And this is what is called the intention. This is the niyyah. This is the niyyah, the existence of this niyyah, that he seeks, that he desires the face of Allah, the Mighty and Majestic. So this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, indeed actions are by intention. It's also been narrated in an alternative way, إِنَّمَا الْعَمَلُ بِالنِّيَّةِ, indeed action is by intention. This is in the singular. In the first version, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ, indeed actions, which are in the plural, بِالنِّيَّاتِ, by intentions in the plural. Here, إِنَّمَا الْعَمَلُ بِالنِّيَّةِ. And likewise in another version, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ, indeed actions are by the intention. So there are different wordings, but the meaning is the same. When in the case where the single form is used, إِنَّمَا الْعَمَلُ بِالنِّيَّةِ, then what is meant by here is the general species of action, right? The action meaning actions in general. إِنَّمَا الْعَمَلُ بِالنِّيَّةِ, indeed action is by intention. But what is meant by action here means all action, so it covers all of the action. So despite the variation in the wording, the meaning is exactly the same. And then this statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Innamal a'malu bin niyat," then the meaning here is because of the particle that's used, innama at the beginning. So instead of just saying al-a'malu bin niyat, the Messenger said innamal a'malu bin niyat. And this particle or this word at the beginning, innama, then it's a particle which is used in order to denote comprehension. Comprehension on the one hand, or a restriction on the other hand. So for example, what it means here is that all of the actions, so first of all it covers all actions, right? Comprehensively covers all actions. And secondly, that it means that actions are tied to the intentions. They are restricted to the intentions, right? So meaning that the outcome of the action is restricted to the underlying intention, right? So meaning that actions are restricted to the intentions behind them, and the intentions behind them determine the true nature of these actions. And then we find that the scholars have basically two broad opinions, or two viewpoints regarding the meaning of this first statement, innamal a'malu bin niyat. So some of the scholars say that what it means, that what is meant here by actions by intention, that it means that the acceptance of an action and an action being correct is based upon the intention, right? So this is the first view, right? That what this hadith means, or what this wording means, is that the actions themselves, their correctness and their acceptability is based upon the intention behind them. And as for the second part, wa innama likulli imri'in ma nawa, then what this means is that a person will be rewarded for the action that he did in accordance with the intention behind it, right? So the actual reward is based upon the intention behind that action. So the first half of the hadith, innamal a'malu bin niyat, explains that actions are restricted in the way that they are treated and judged by the intentions behind them. In the second half, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, that every man will be rewarded based upon what he actually intended. And so then the Shaykh continues and he says, likewise the lam in وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, that the lam here, لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ, this lam it denotes the lam of possession, in the sense, in a similar sense to when Allah says in the Quran, وَأَنَّ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى, that man shall have nothing, that there is nothing for man except that which he strived for. So this, in this hadith, the wording is the same, وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, meaning that the reward of his action, that's what he will possess, that's what he will receive. Right? So whatever he intended by way of his action, then that reward will be his. Then that will be his. He will receive that reward. This is a statement of a group of the scholars regarding this opening part of the hadith. Another group of scholars, they said that what this really means, or what this statement means, is that it explains that what gives rise to an action is the intention, right? So in other words, what they are basically saying is that when a person has an intention, right, that intention arises initially in his heart, and then eventually that will result in an action. So in other words, no action was performed by anybody except that he had a desire for it and an intent for it, and this is obviously the same as the niyyah, right? So in other words, what this other group of scholars are saying is that this hadith basically is explaining how do actions arise, what are the causes of actions. The causes of actions, so whether these actions are righteous, whether these actions are evil or corrupt, or whether these actions constitute obedience or disobedience, then the second group, what they are saying is that irrespective of what the action is, the hadith is just explaining that all actions, irrespective of what they are, they arise as a result of an intention and a desire that is found in the heart of a person. And so this is what they say. And so what they say, that when the heart desires an action and the person has the ability to do it, then indeed the action will occur. And so they say that this statement of the Messenger, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, it simply means that the Messenger is explaining the causal relationship or the link between intentions and actions. Right? The actions are caused by intentions, and this is the view of the second group of scholars. However, what is correct is the first statement, which is that actions are judged according to the intentions behind them. The Shaykh explains that this is the correct viewpoint and the correct opinion, and this is because the intent behind this hadith is an explanation of what the Sharia desires, or what the Sharia requests. Right? The Sharia requests from us that we make our actions sincerely and purely for the sake of Allah. This hadith is an explanation of that. And the hadith isn't just merely something that, because we know already, we already know, for example, that a person's actions arise as a result of him desiring them. Right? All actions arise because of that. We already know that. We already know that reality, and that this is the case. So it would be redundant for this hadith to be just, for the Messenger to just mention this as a statement of fact. It wouldn't make any sense. Rather, what is correct, or the correct view, is that the statement of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is from the angle of explaining that actions are judged by the intentions behind them. So now that we've correctly established the intended meaning behind this statement, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى, then exactly what are the actions? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ, what exactly are the actions then? Al-a'mal is the plural of amal. A'mal, actions, is the plural of amal, the singular form, action. And what it refers to is everything that arises from a person, every single action. So it would include statements and it would include actions. Right? So everything which emanates from a person, whether they are statements or whether they are actions, whether it is the statement of the heart, speech of the heart, or action of the heart, whether it is a statement of the tongue, or whether it is actions of the limbs, then a'mal referred to here in the hadith, then all of it enters into that. All of it enters into that. So the Shaykh says that when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said innamal a'malu binniyat, then everything that is connected to iman, everything which is connected to iman, as we know, is speech, belief, speech and action. Speech is speech of the heart and speech of the tongue, and action is action of the heart and action of the limbs. Then all of that enters into al-a'mal as occurs in this hadith, because iman, as the Shaykh says, iman qawlun wa amalun is speech and action, qawlul lisani wa qawlul qalb, qawlul lisani wa qawlul qalb, speech of the tongue and speech of the heart, and the action of the limbs and the action of the heart. So therefore everything which emanates from a person enters into the statement innamal a'malu binniyat. And then the Shaykh says that now that we've established obviously the niyyah and the actions and all of the actions, then we've attached the niyyah to the heart, and the place of the niyyah isn't the tongue, for example, or the limbs. Rather, the place where the intention is found is the heart. Right? So basically what it means is, what exactly is the niyyah? It means that the heart intends and desires something or this thing with the heart. That is what the intention is defined as. Right? So a person, he intends and wills or he intends and desires to perform the salah, that then now is the intention. That is the intention. That is what we call the intention. The intent and the desire, the qasd and the irada in his heart to perform the salah. Just the existence of that intent and desire. That is what is called intention. That is the intention. It's not something, for example, that a person, he says with his tongue that I now intend to pray the Salatul Dhuhr with 4 rakat. This is not what is intention. So intention isn't that something that's on the tongue, nor is it something that's in the limbs. Rather, it's that which is in the heart. When a person intends and desires something, then his niyyah is established. The niyyah for that thing is then present, existent, and it becomes established. So therefore, now what becomes clear from the hadith then is that all of the actions have a condition, which is the presence of the niyyah, the presence of the intention. And now that we've established the intention, now that we've established the presence of the intention, the next question is, what is it that a person is seeking? What is it that a person is intending? Right. So we've established that the intention must be there, but what is the nature of that intention? What is it? And the answer to it is that what is intended by it is to seek the face of Allah the Mighty and Majestic. To seek the face of Allah the Mighty and Majestic. And this is why in the Quran we find that the word niyyah itself, the word niyyah itself, it comes in a number of different words. For example, al-irada, and for example, al-ibtigha. We find that this is how niyyah is referred to in the Quran. So some examples of that the Shaykh gives. First of all, the saying of Allah the Most High, yuriduna wajh Allah. So Allah says that they seek and they desire the face of Allah. Surah Rum, Surah 30, verse 38. And likewise, the saying of Allah the Most High, yuriduna wajhah, that they seek His face. Again, the word yuridun, the word irada. Surah Al-An'am, Surah 6, verse 52. And likewise, the saying of Allah, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. That have patience with those who call upon their Lord in the morning and evening, in the morning and night, and they seek His face. Surah Al-Kahf, Surah 18, verse 28, and other similar verses. Man kana yuridu harth al-akhirah nazid lahu fi harthihi. That whoever desires the tilth of the hereafter, then we will increase him in his tilth. Right? Again, yurid, man kana yurid. So in the first set of hadith we find seeking Allah's face, and in this set of hadith we find seeking the hereafter. Right? So yurid meaning the person who intends and seeks and desires. Right? And another verse, وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةَ وَسَعَى لَهَا سَعْيَهَا. That whoever desires the hereafter and strives for it as it truly should be striven for. Again, this is niyyah. This is Surah Al-Isra, Surah 17, verse 19. And the verse before that I just mentioned about the tilth, whoever desires the tilth of the hereafter. Surah Al-Shura, Surah 42, verse 20. Right, so all of these verses, when they speak about seeking the face of Allah or seeking the hereafter, then all of this is in reference to the niyyah. This is the niyyah. And also the word al-ibtigha. Ibtigha can be used as well. So we have irada and we have ibtigha. So Allah the Mighty Majestic says, إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ الْأَعْلَى, which is except seeking the face of his Lord the Most High. Surah Al-Layl, Surah Al-Layl, which I believe is Surah 91 or 92, verse number 20. And likewise in another verse, لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاح بين الناس ومن يفعل ذلك ابتغاء مرضات الله فسوف نؤتيه أجرا عظيما. That there's no goodness in many of their secret councils or secret meetings, except for the one who commands with charity or with goodness, or who rectifies between the people. And whoever does that, seeking the pleasure of Allah, then soon shall we give him a great reward. So this is Surah An-Nisa, Surah 4, verse 114. And again, the word ibtigha used here, seeking the pleasure of Allah, again, the mean that refers to the niyyah. So therefore, we find that in these texts that we've given by way of example, we find that the word niyyah, or the meaning of niyyah, comes often either in terms of the irada, meaning the heart's desiring something, the irada, or with the word al-ibtigha, which is the same, al-ibtigha, meaning to seek or to desire. Sometimes it can also come with the word Islam, meaning aslama, like in the Quran, man aslama wajhahu lillah, like for example, turning one's heart or submitting one's heart or face to Allah, right? So it comes in all these different ways. We find it in the Quran, and all of that is in reference to the niyyah. This is the niyyah. Then the next issue is the niyyah itself is divided into two types. Right, so when we find the word niyyah used in the speech of Allah, the Mighty Majestic, or when we find it being used in the Sharia in general, then this niyyah, there are one of two meanings which are intended by it. The first niyyah is the niyyah which is directed towards ibadah, towards actions of worship, towards ibadah. And secondly, the niyyah which is directed towards al-ma'bud, meaning the one being worshipped. Right, so we look at niyyah from two different angles. And niyyah as it relates to the actions of worship, and niyyah as it relates to the one being worshipped. So as for the first, the niyyah which is attached to the actions of worship, then this is what is used predominantly by the fuqaha, the jurists, when they speak about in the rulings, and when they bring, for example, the conditions, that when they say, for example, that the condition for an action or for a worship is a niyyah. First of all, the niyyah that they're talking about here is the niyyah that is directed towards the actions of worship. What does it mean? This means, all it means is to distinguish the actions of worship from each other. Right? So for example, it's the niyyah that distinguishes between prayer and charity, and between the prayer which is obligatory and the prayer which is nafal, not obligatory. The niyyah which separates between, for example, Salatul Dhuhr and Salatul Asr, because Dhuhr and Asr outwardly are exactly the same. What's the difference between them in terms of physically performing the actions of worship? The only thing that distinguishes them is, aside from the time in which they prayed, is the niyyah. A person intends his niyyah is to pray Dhuhr, and a person intends his niyyah is to pray Asr. Right, so the niyyah, one of the roles and the functions of the niyyah is to distinguish between the various acts of worship, right? Between, like these prayers, as we've said, and other than them. So this is, when we speak of niyyah from this angle, then, this is what is spoken of by the jurists in their books, and this is the niyyah that allows the heart to distinguish between one worship and another worship. Like a person comes to a mosque and he wants to pray 2 rakahs. In his heart, it's his heart that distinguished by way of the intention. It's his heart that's distinguished these 2 rakahs as being the rakahs of greeting the masjid, the tahiyatul masjid, right? Or are they the 2 rakahs which are from the rawatib, from the prayers that you pray along with the obligatory prayers, So it's the heart that distinguishes between these various types and forms of worship. So the heart distinguishing between one type of worship and another, this is also called the niyyah, and this is what is spoken of by the fuqaha, by the jurists in their books when they speak about the affairs of fiqh and the conditions of the performing the obligations and things like that. The second type, which is the niyyah that's directed towards the one being worshipped, then this is what we often refer to using the word ikhlas. Right? So when we speak of ikhlas, ikhlasul niyyah lillah, ikhlasul qalb, ikhlasul deen, ikhlasul amal, making the niyyah, being sincere to Allah, making the deen sincere to Allah, making action sincere to Allah, then this is what we speak of commonly when we speak of ikhlas and tawheed and so on and so forth. And so these are the two types. And this hadith, when we look at this hadith, innamal a'malu bin niyat, which of the two is this hadith referring to? The answer is that the hadith in fact comprises both types. The wording in the hadith innamal a'malu bin niyat comprises both types. So the niyyah which is directed towards the one being worshipped, in the sense that a person's actions are only for his sake, and the niyyah also in the sense that that which distinguishes between some affairs of worship from others. And so it comprises both of these affairs. And with that, we inshallah will stop today's lesson, and we'll continue with the remainder in the next lesson. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll finish the remainder of the hadith in the next lesson. So with that, we will close today's lesson, inshallah ta'ala.